Hello everyone, welcome to Blue Dragon Actuarial. So this video, as you have seen in the thumbnail, would be related to modeling exercise. Now, how we actually do a modeling. So we are going to take a random scenario and we are going to model that in Excel. In fact, this is the distinction between a paper actuary and a proper actuary. Proper actuary will understand the concept and he or she will be able to conceptualize and model that in a software. In this case, we are using Excel because it is the most flexible software, but paper actually never be able to do that or struggle to do that. This is also how the CP2 exam is kind of structured, right? So this, if you are going through this video, you are going to learn about that as well. And this video, make no mistake, would be a highly technical one. It will kind of take some time, right? So if you do not have the sufficient time, please do not start this video, or like it and save it, and then you can later on go to your liked videos and check this video out, right? So this would be a long video. And one thing is that I am observing, and my experience with the current generation of actual freshers has not been kind of very good. uh, the more time passes, I feel actual students are getting dumber and dumber. Sorry for using that word, but that is how I feel. I was at least 20 times smarter than when I was at 25 years of age, than when I speak with someone who is between 25 26 at that age range. And that difference is increasing, which is very concerning to me. So I'd also like to see if we get enough views in this video, because if that is not the case, then we have to tone down the quality of this channel, because otherwise we are creating these videos for a particular audience, and if that audience is not able to understand what we are doing, then there is no point, right? Because that audience is not at that intelligence level to understand. Then that's a serious problem for us, especially when we create such high quality videos in terms of knowledge, right? So without wasting any further time, let us start with the topic. So this topic is related to a post that I made on LinkedIn, and I asked about two options. Whether I would, they would, the LinkedIn society would like for me to double my capital, and for that I'm going to use this capital, which is 50,000, right? And or they would want me to kind of get 10% of 20 lakhs, right? And LinkedIn society chose 50,000 should be doubled, right? Which is not a good choice, because first it has a lot of risk. Then secondly, 20 lakhs, 10% would be 2 lakhs, which is much more than the return that I'll be generating. If I double 50,000, because in 50,000 doubling, I'll be getting 50,000 as profit. But in 10% of 20 lakhs, which is much less risky, I'll be getting 2 lakhs, which is much higher. That is also one of the reasons that NPV, net present value, is always rated higher as compared to internal rate of return. That is the reason, because percentage is never is always relative, right? It just shows how some things compare to each other. But that is how, as I mentioned, the current generation of actual students are just dumb, unfortunately, and that is why probably they were not able to make this distinction, because most of my audience would be the current generation of actual students. But yeah, that is what you have chosen. So I hope I'll be, let us see mathematically if that is even possible or not, and if it is possible, how much time that will be required. So you can see there is a blank Excel file, and I'm going to model that, and I'm going to get stuck somewhere, and I'm going to figure that out. And while doing that, if you like this, so obviously we have course for CP2, and which will be kind of similar to this one, right? So you can purchase that course. The same rigor that I will be displaying here will be displayed there. And also you have course on Excel, which you can purchase, which is at a much higher level. The rigor that will be displayed here, that course is at probably 30 times above that level. Sometimes I get this question: is it sufficient for CM1? I mean, that's not a question, that's a joke. Because I feel CM1 level is very, very easy. It's way too easy. And the Excel level that has been done in the Excel course is super advanced. It's extremely advanced. So there is no comparison. Just to maybe tell something about the course, like I have cleared Excel expert certification from Microsoft. It is done in 2 stages, and I also got the MVP status. It means most valued professional by Microsoft. So when you do some great or create some formulas or solve some issues that Microsoft that help Microsoft you get that status. So I'm not displaying that here because that will be a show up, but yeah, that is where I belong in Excel, and there is no point of comparison of maybe CM1 Excel with what I can do with Excel. So with that being said, let us start. So first, which is important in any modeling exercise. So what is modeling exercise? Modeling exercise is prediction about future, right? So you cannot predict about future without assumptions. Second is you also need some data, right? Without that, you cannot predict. So these are the two things that I require. Now assumptions, is I have to double, right, my capital, and I have 30 days. All of this you cannot say these are assumptions, these are like kind of facts, right? So I have 30 days, uh, but 30 days translate, now this would be an assumption, right? Translate into 20 trading days, right? Assuming there will be some leaves, for example, 15th of August would be Independence Day. Happy Independence to everyone in advance, right? So these are my assumptions, and if I see any further assumptions, I'm going to write it down, right? Sometimes the assumptions are not evident when you are modeling, but when you start with the model, you will be able to see what happens, right? And this would be my model. So one thing I know in my model would be, there would be serial number and dates, right? So serial number I'm going to put here, and I'm going to see the dates. I put the dates here as well, right? Dates which will start with today. Today is the 3rd of August. So let us see this 3rd of August. Okay. And I'm going to extend this. Don't think it will be needed, but okay. So not extend that, I have to add one, and then I have to go on, right? So this will ensure, and I am going to copy this, right? And I'm going to press Alt S T. So this would show the date in a proper format, right? Now I'm going to do the same with the serial number, equal to plus 1. Now, trust me, when you are modeling in actual work, this is the level of confidence that you need in Excel, right? And probably I'm working much slower. You need more speed in Excel. You have to be more faster if you want to do a good job, right? So I'm just trying to do it slightly slower because otherwise it might be difficult for many people to understand, right? Now I want to understand if it is a day, what day it is, because it is not happening to me. So I'm just writing down day. And for that, Excel has a function called weekday, right? So weekday will take the serial number and return type, which is Monday to Sunday. So in this case, Saturday and Sunday will be represented by 6 and 7, which is what I want to do, right? So I'm going to choose this 2 option. So this shows 7, right? And okay, so this comes out to be, let me name this weekday. Okay, weekday. Okay, so this calls out 7 to 1, etc. Now here I am just going to put, and because I want Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, right? Like that. So what I can do, there are multiple ways I can do that. So the first, maybe if I just want to put the day, right? So there is a function called text function. All these are part of my Excel course as well. So text function will take this and convert this into date, right? The text function is basically creating a format. It will take this serial number and it will write the day, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? So this comes out to be sun, right? And then there can be Saturday, etc. So I'm just going to drag this function, right? So it shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So this basically this column is not needed actually, because this is what I wanted, and I don't need this weekday column. So I'm just going to delete this, right? If later on if it is needed, then I'm going to bring it back, right? Now here I want Saturday and Sunday to be highlighted, meaning that there is no that we don't trade on Saturday and Sunday, right? So I'm just going to highlight this, and I'm going to use a conditional formatting. So which shows that if your day is based on the values, right? So these are the options that we see, but I am just going to select this one, format cells, right? So this one, cell value between, or let me paste on the values. So this is not between, I'm going to write equal to, and that if it is equal to set, right? So then format would be, go to fill and put maybe, yeah, maybe I'm just putting this, right? Set, and let us see if this works out. Okay, so yeah, the Saturday is highlighted here. Similarly, I'm going to put another conditional formatting rule, which is new rule, and cell that contain value equal to, I'm going to put sun. Okay, and I'm going to put the same color, is this one. So this means that that is weekend, right? So later on we can filter that if there is whatever modeling we are going to do, Saturday and Sunday will be blank, right? So here, the other thing that I want is whether I'll be making profit or loss. I may make profit, I may make loss, right? So that is how it is. Now, how can I choose, whether we're going to make profit or loss, right? So I think that should depend on random numbers, right? So that, that profit and loss would be random. Okay. So overall, hopefully we'll be getting around, at least 50% accuracy should be there. So what we are going to say is whenever there is odd day, right? Whenever it will be odd number, it will be, if the number is odd, then it will be, uh, what can I say? It will be win, right? And if the number is positive, then it will be, if the number is even, then it will be a loss, right? So that is what I'm assuming, right? So this I need to write down here, odd number, it represents. So whenever you are modeling something, you have to write it properly so that someone else can understand that. And even number, and you also revisit this later on, right? So you also don't get confused with what you have done, or you might take a lot of time to understand what you've done earlier, right? So that is why writing it down, documentation is very important for model. Trust me, I hate documentation, but it's just there to help us, right? So what I wanted to do is mark win or loss, right? So this is what, maybe first let me write random number simulation, right? These are something that we are creating, but we may not show that in the final output, right? But here I've written random number simulation. So for that, we have this function which you call rand between, and let us put the value from 1 to 31, right? Because that is the number of days we have in August. So this is 22, right? And the moment you place anything, right, the moment you write a formula, update it, it is going to be updating. I don't want that, right? So instead of putting a number, I'm just going to copy this and freeze this, right? So that we already this number is quite random, right? Already this number is quite random, but I don't want to change it every time we do the calculation. You can also do that. That is also something that you can try, but for now I don't want that. So now we are going to make our assumption for win or loss. Okay. So here what we are going to write is if it is divisible by 2, because even number is win, right? So then that is what we are going to say win. So we are going to mark the win by W, and if it is odd number, then we are going to mark loss, because every day we cannot win. We are trading, right? So that is why 50,000, in order to make 50,000, 1 lakh, we have to take trades every day. But there will be some days we'll be losing, right? So that is why I want this random number to be generated, right? And also here also we are making another assumption that we are taking only one trade a day, right? So only one trade is taken every day. So these are your rules as well. Because these are your assumptions. Your data is dependent on this, right? So what we are going to do is we're going to write if, and then there is a function called mod, right, which gives you the remainder. So if mod of somehow some quotation has come by 2, right, equal to 0, then it is win, and otherwise it is loss. So you have to validate that later on once the formula is at every step of the model. You need to validate everything, right? So today, because I want to finish it quickly, I may not be doing that, right? But you need to, kind of understand and do that, right? So here you can see that whenever we are getting an even number, it is W, and whenever we are getting a, not a even number, it is kind of loss, right? But you don't want any value for Saturday and Sunday, right? Otherwise we'll be getting the value there as well. So here we are going to put another criteria, right, which is if. Now this is where the complexity starts, right? So if, and here we are going to put or, right, because there is Saturday and Sunday, right? So if this is equal to sun, comma, again C2, right, is equal to Sat, right? So if this is equal to Saturday or Sunday, keep it blank, right? Otherwise, use the if condition that you have already created. So you can see that I have broken down this complex formula into a simple one, which is exactly the concept that I teach in my Excel course. So there will be many complex formulas. I call this mega formulas, right? So whenever you get mega formulas or you have to do something, you have to split it down into multiple small steps, write every step, and then make it more and more bigger. So ultimately, your formula might run 20 pages, but you have started from a very simple formula and then you have made it complex. So that method, is taught in the Excel course as well. But anyways, so this is where I can see it is working fine, right? So now we can see that in Saturday, Sunday, we are not reading, right? Saturday, Sunday, we are not reading. I can remove this as well, right? Which is 15th of August, because I know that we will not be trading. Right. So this I have used manually. Like I can also put a condition if it is 15th, or I can put a holiday, here as well. Like if there is a holiday, then we can remove that. But once again, you get the idea. So I'm not doing that. I'm just using a manual calculation, right? A manual way to remove that. But yeah, that is what I wanted. So here I'm going to use another conditional formatting, right? Or maybe two conditional formatting. I want to show the wind with green. Okay. So similarly, if I go here and cell that contain, which is equal to if I get W, right? So then I go to fill and I'm going to place green. Okay. Similarly, I am going to go to new rule, and if I get format cell that contain equal to loss, which is L, then I want to show it with a red color, right? So it will immediately, like visually, it will be appealing to me, and I can understand. Okay, so red means it is not going to work in our favor, and blue means green means that it is win, right? I also want to quickly check the accuracy. So for checking that, I'm coming to the data tab here. Let us write some of the data which we have not done till now, right? So let us use the capital, which is 50,000, right? The capital is 50,000, and now I want to calculate the accuracy, right? Risk reward will come later, but now I want to calculate the accuracy. Let us also write it in the proper format, right? So I'm using accounting format so that it is easier for everyone to understand. Okay. So now I'm going to use the win and loss from that previous sheet. So I'm going to use W, and I'm going to use L, and then I'm going to call the hit ratio, which will be right W by W plus L. Okay. So here I'm going to use count A. Okay. where we are going to use the count A, it will be based on this. Okay. So I have to select this and I'm going to freeze that. Okay. And the value would be, sorry, I cannot use count A, right? So I can use only count if or count ifs, but in this case I have only one parameter, so I can use count if, which is the range, and the criteria is this one, right? So I'm going to freeze the column and see this, I'm getting 8, right? And I'm going to drag it down here. So I'm getting 11, right? So the accuracy that I'm getting in this case, probably my accuracy would be much better, but the accuracy that I'm getting in this case is 8 divided by B3 plus B2, right? So that is the accuracy percentage that I am getting, which is coming out to be 42%, which is reasonable, right? Because with more experience, you can get to 60, 70%. I've seen my accuracy to be 74% approximately. So this is slightly worse than what I expected. Now, suppose if I want to tweak that, right? If I want to change that, because I know my accuracy is 74% based on previous experience. Now, suppose I make just one of this, right? Win. Let us see how the assumption changes. It is now 47%. Suppose I make one of this win, because this looks like a bad week, right? Now it has changed to 53%. And let us see if maybe I can make another of this. You can see some red here. Maybe this can be made W. Let us see. So it has, in that way you can change, right? First we have gone by random numbers, right? And then we have manually changed this, right? To get to that, 74%. Maybe we want to get to that 74%, right? So that is how it is, right? Now I also want to calculate the number of trading days here, right? So how we are going to, although it is not a data, but it is something that that is important for us, right? So here we are going to use something called count. So we are only going to sum maybe, or we are just going to take the count, right? And then we are going to count the blanks and deduct from it, right? So that we get the number of trading days. So first we are going to use, in this case, we can use the count A, right? So count A would be maybe this one, first number of days. This will give me the total number of days that is left, right? So I'm just going to freeze this. And then there is another function in Excel, which we call count blank. You can see that, I missed that, right? So count blank, and here I'm going to use this, right? So it will only count the blank that is present. And here I'm getting 19 days, which is also evident from here. So here we can do a check, right? Like if, this, sorry. So these checks are very important, right? You at every step you need to understand. And this is also how, the modeling is done in CP2, right? So you have to check at every interval. If this is equal to, then I'm going to write past, right? And otherwise I'm going to write fail. Okay, right? So this is passing. Now the next important thing is how much I am losing and how much I am making whenever I'm taking one trade, because we can only take one trade a day, right? So here let us make that assumption, and let us make that assumption that we are going to, we call that risk reward, right? So we are going to have 1:2 risk reward. What it means is, if I lose 1 rupee, right? So then I'm willing to get 2 rupees. Okay. Now in this case, I'm just going to, kind of hard code that, and it can, once again, you can, depending on your expertise in Excel, you can vary that as well, right? But in this case, I'm going to write risk would be 5,000 every day. We are going to risk. Now, depending on the market situation, how the market has opened, it can change, right? It can be 4,500, 9,000, it can be 5,000 and 10,000, it can be 6,000 and 12,000, it can be 7,500 and 15,000, right? But in this case, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to risk 7,500 every day, 7,500, and reward that I'm going to draw would be 15,000. which is where it also makes sense that every day the market will not move that much, so that it is going to give you, sorry, that it is going to give you 1:2, right? So that is where I also feel that this sort of accuracy is good as well, right? And only after you have traded for a long time, you understand the market, you can say, yeah, my accuracy is higher. But otherwise, even 50% accuracy is pretty good. Okay. So this is what I'm going to get. So whenever there will be a risk, I'm going to lose this much, right? And whenever there is a gain, I'm going to get 1500, right? So let us see first of all if that works out, right? So profit or loss, right? Amount. So what we are going to do here is, if it is, if okay, this step is equal to blank, then do nothing, right? Then just put 0. But if this is, so I'm putting another if, right? And we have seen nested if just before, here itself, right? So now here I'm going to write if this one is equal to W, right? For which I need quotation. If this one is equal to W, then please use the data which is this, and I'm going to freeze this, right? Else use the data which is this, and I'm going to freeze this, right? And I'm going to put another bracket just to close this, right? So now in this case, it is, because it is blank, we are getting 0, but if it is win, we are going to get 15,000. So let us try that, right? Okay, right. So we have done that. Now we want to check the, so whenever it is 7,000, so what I understood is I have not put the negative sign, right? So what I wanted to do is, here just add a negative sign here because it is loss. Otherwise, we'll not understand, right, that it is a loss. And we also need to see the capital calculation. So this is how you can see. Now, once again, these are assumptions, right? Sometimes it can be 5,000 and 6,000, and the corresponding can be 10,000, right? We can model like that as well. But I've just I simplified it like this, right? I can also make, the everyday we are, maybe we're not going to take the same trade, but eventually what, because of the discipline and process, we might want to, risk something, some amount, exactly close to 7,500. And if we get 15,000 or above, we'll be happy, right? So it can, the 15,000 can also increase. It can be 1:3 as well, depends on market condition. But such degree of variability cannot be modeled, right? It, something has to be kept to the reality, and that is why actual versus expected is very, very important, right? But here what we are trying to see is if mathematically it is even possible to make 1 lakh of 50,000. And if it is possible, then what is the, maybe the hit ratio that is required, what is the risk reward that is required? That is our main goal, right, for this modeling exercise. Now here I'm going to add capital accumulated, right? Because here I'm going to use whatever amount that is present. I'm going to use that to inflate my capital, right? So capital accumulated initially would be equal to, uh, the this one, right? Which I'm going to freeze because it is 50,000. But from next time, it will be the previous capital plus this profit or loss, right? Whatever it is. So I'm going to track this. Because this is different from this. I just need to highlight that, right? So I'm going to highlight this one, right, with a color so that I easily understand this color is slightly darker. So I'm just going to make myself remember that, this formula is slightly different, right? That is why I've highlighted. Now, obviously, the more you write that, that should not go into your model assumption. That should be part of your, model explanations. Okay. So now I'm just going to change the format, for which I'm going to do Alt H-K and then Alt H9 and Alt H9, right? So this is how we are going to do this. 50,000 became 65,000, 70,000. And here again, I can see here it is going to, so the maximum drawdown that we can see here is 50,000, 60,000, then 70, from 60,000 it became 80,000 here, right? But here it, then here it reduces to 7,200, 7250, then here it is also reducing to 650. So the problem that I have is how much price is required, right? And depending on that, we have this, we might have a threshold of 35,000, because if somehow there is a, series of losses, and if every day we need 35,000 capital to, to trade, then if that is falling below 35,000, then that might cause some issue for it. But because of the way we have kind of structured that, right, in this case, that is not, that is not happening, right? So we can have another, field added, so that we can call matched with the price, right? So what we are assuming is, maybe let me write that, and then matched with threshold, right? So here I'm going to write threshold. So here you can see, actually, if we follow this approach, we can actually go to 1,55,000, right? Which is the figure. So this is definitely possible, right? But let us first understand this concept of threshold, right? Threshold means if there is a series of drawdown, right? Drawdown means if there is a series of losses, then I don't want my capital to come below 35,000, because that amount I'm not using 50,000 entirely. I'm using 35,000 to take that trade of and take that risk of 7,500 every day, or make the profit of 15,000 every day, right? So that is how we are using the 50,000 capital. So here I'm putting 35,000. Just going to copy this format here, for which I'm going to write Alt EST. So 35,000 here, and here I'm not seeing any problem, right? So I'm going to uh, use an if condition. If this one is less than, right? If this one is less than, second I'm going to freeze this, right? So if this one is, then I'll write threshold breached, right? Otherwise, we are going to write okay. So in this case, we have not seen any issue, right? The problem will lie here if somehow, for reason, suppose we have L here, we have L here, right? So here the problem we can see. So here we can see some threshold breached, right? So if threshold is breached, then that's a problem for us, right? And then we might have to put in additional capital, or we have to stop the challenge there, because we might not have enough money to take 7,500 risk, or remaining can be changed, right? Remaining after that, the remaining risk can be changed. But once again, I don't want to complicate it that much, right? So I'll just highlight whenever I see threshold breached, right? So I'm just going to put a conditional formatting here, and I'm going to write, maybe I can use this option, right? So instead of using the new rule, so this also works. So if your value equal to threshold breached, right? So then light red, right? Like it is kind of showing here, right? So then that will be a cause of concern for us. Then we might have to change our method, right? But we'll not expect to have 4 losses in a row, because that depends on, obviously this is not a challenge that everyone can do, right? This is something that only people who have some experience. Otherwise, you cannot just double your capital. That is just way too much optimism, right? So that is what it is, right? And now we can further complicate this method. My idea is to show that this is possible or not, and when it is possible, right? So here you can see, if we now, what is the accuracy now? So the accuracy now is 47%, right? So if with that accuracy, we are going to get to this threshold level. So maybe here also we are going to highlight the cell, right? You can also use index and match to highlight the cell, or get the the corresponding value, when at what date this is going to happen. I'm going to leave that to you as a as a home task, if you can do that, right? So if you can do that, you can write a mail to, like, how you can identify every time, right? Suppose 1 lakh happens here, then you want to identify this date. Similarly, if 1 lakh happens here, you want to identify this date, right? You should write a formula that will do that for you, right? So if you can do that, then you can write an email to admin@bluedragonuniverse.in. And if you want to purchase our course, then we are going to give you some discount there, maybe 20 or 30% discount, right? Because then that means you already have used your brain and you already are slightly advanced, right? But even you are quite advanced, then even then that course have tremendous value for you. And you obviously you can understand from this course that how our CPT course, CP2 course is also structured, because this sort of thing is just piece of cake for me. I do that on everyday basis because I work in a company which creates the actual software, right? So whenever we see any regulation, you have to understand the regulation, then you have to form a case study, then we have to share that with the developer will come back to us. So there are so many steps that we go through, and that increases and improves my knowledge, because the developer is also going to challenge something, my other colleagues are also going to challenge something, right? Because it depends on their interpretation of the regulation. So since we are creating a software, you can understand, if we do not understand the concept in detail, it is important, I mean it is just impossible to create the software, right? So here I am going to use a conditional filter in this case, just going to simplify that, right? And the rule would be format a cell that is greater than, and the figure obviously will know is 1 lakh, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to maybe fill that with blue mark, since our channel is Blue Dragon, right? So here we can see that from this point onwards, we are getting, that 1 lakh. So we have to wait till 27th of August. And now we can play with this, right? So what this mathematical model help us to do is understand what risk reward we should go with, right? And or what accuracy we should need to even, or whether it is even possible to double your capital, right? So suppose here now it is, now once the model is created, right, you can do multiple changes, right? And for that you can, maybe use a goal seek or something like that. But in this case, so the hit ratio is coming out to 47%, but that means that you do not need to be successful 50 or even 50% of the time, right? However, this breach, there are three times that our threshold is breached, right? So that is something that we have to be careful about. Maybe we have to put some additional capital to bring it to 35,000, and then again we can get rid of that capital when we get above 50,000, right? So that is where this is important, right? But we don't want to, as I mentioned, we don't want to overcomplicate this one. And suppose if I change this to 5,000, right? And if I change this to 10,000, right? Or we can create a multiple, because eventually it is 1:2. So I can just do a multiplier, right? So if I do 5,000 and 10,000, then you can see there is only once, because that might be much easier for me, right? Because that shows that threshold will be breached only once, right? Even with this accuracy, threshold will be breached only once, which is probably where I would be comfortable, because the amount that I'll be using to purchase every day would be maybe closer to 35,000. And even in that case, if we make four losses, even then we are, we will be able to, go ahead with this strategy. Otherwise, if our threshold is breached three times, then probably we have to stop the strategy at that point of time, right? So here, but in this case, you see that we are not going to get to the 1 lakh mark, right? So that is not something that we would like to, kind of do, right? So maybe we can write something here, just to see that if the challenge is successful or not. So we are going to write challenge, because I don't want to scroll to the end every time, right? And as I mentioned, this is just the starting version. You can have multiple versions of this, right? So that you can, like, you can make it more comfortable for you, right? So I'm going to write equal to max, right? So max of whatever amount that is present here, right? So maybe max of the amount that is present here, and I'm going to write 1 lakh. Or I can hard code that, I can put that in the data field as well, right? So here I'm, maybe I can write, maybe I should write minimum, right? Not the max, it's minimum. That would mean that the challenge is not successful. Now, if this one, so, and now I'm putting, so see, I have created a simplified condition. I've checked if it is correct or not, then I'm putting it into a bigger formula, right? So if this one is less than 1 lakh, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, challenge failed, right? Else we are going to say challenge passed, right? So in this case, the challenge is like we have failed the challenged, right? And if the challenge is failed, then we might want to determine by how much amount we have failed the challenge, right? Only if we fail the challenge. So that is what we can write. If challenge this one is equal to challenge failed, right? Then you get to the lowest value, which is this one, right? Put a minus sign before, and I'm going to put 1 lakh, right? So this, whenever we are hard coding, that is not a good concept, or that is not good, right? So otherwise, we are going to put 0, right? So challenge, if K2 equal to challenge failed, successful indicator, right? Otherwise, it is not going to show the real picture. To just put this like this. This is the challenge successful indicator. I'm just going to make it block and maybe in red. Challenge failed, and okay. So I have just put an extra D here. That is what is not working. Okay. So here you can see if it is coming out to be 10,000. Okay. So this is the amount by which we have failed the challenge, right? So this also I want to highlight in red, and this also I want to highlight in red, right? So that is what it is. So in this case, we have failed the challenge. So that means that this is not going to work out. Maybe now this for that, maybe first thing that I want to do is replace this 10,000. So this is our challenge level, right? So what we are going to do here is we are going to put that 1 lakh here and replace those values with 1 lakh, right? EST, and here we are going to, instead of using this, right, instead of using this 1 lakh here, we are going to use that value, right? So everything that we are going to change would be changing from here, and this should also change from here, which we are going to freeze, right? So that is how it is, and this one also needs to change. So I am going to use this, and I'm going to use this data, right? This data point. So I've freezed that. So now we are seeing challenge failed, right? Now maybe what I want to do is, what would be the minimum risk, right? That would give us 0 here, right? So for that, we can do goal seek, right? So that I determine the minimum risk level. I can also determine the accuracy level as well, right? So what would be the minimum level? But in this case, maybe let us just focus on the risk reward, because our accuracy is kind of taken randomly, right? So that is, I mean, that is a modeling assumption, and we are not going to change that, right? So we might write here that accuracy is taken or is simulated randomly, something like Markov, Markov chain or Markov process simulated randomly, right? So that is what we have used. We have basically used uniform distribution to kind of get the accuracy. So this is 10,000. Now I want to change this number, right? This number, like, sorry, this number should be bigger, so that, that should be changed to, something, like that would determine in how many days we can still get that, figure to be more than that figure should be 0 or less, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, right? And this is where I'm, and in just some time we are going to end this as well. I know that this video is getting a bit longer, but right, so that is how we actually work. This is basically serving the purpose of CP2 as well as Excel skill that you need. So that is why I think this is an important video. So here I'm going to write model modified, okay, model modified, and the only change that I'm going to do is risk, right? Risk would be revised. Okay. So risk revised, which is also I'm going to put the value 5,000 here, right? And this is where I'm going to use the goal sick later on. So I'm going to just put the value 5,000 here, and then reward. Also, I'm going to write reward revised, right? Reward revised. Okay. And here also I'm going to put the value, or which will be the multiplier, right? So what we are going to change here is in entire calculation, we are going to change this B6 with E6 and B7 with E7, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, okay, and I'm going to write Control H. So I'm going to replace so that should be data B6, right? So I have to copy that because yeah, so this is data B7. I'm just going to copy this, right? Because otherwise there might be some other B7 that might get changed. So I'll just going to select this. I've selected the entire sheet, and I'm going to put data B7 with, and I'm going to replace that with data E7. Okay, and similarly B6 with E6. But first let us do the B7 and E7. Okay, and then I'm going to replace this B6 with E6, right? So I have basically created a revised sheet, and the revised sheet is doing the same calculation as of now because the numbers are same. What we have done is this model sheet is dependent on this rows, but this model modified is dependent on this rows, right? And now we are going to whatever goal seek or whatever we are going to add, use, we are going to use on this this row, so that this model changes. This is our base model, right? So, and this is exactly how CP2 works as well. So here, let us go to data. Then there is what if analysis, and I'm going to use goal sec, right? So I'm going to change this value, right, to 0. Okay, and I want to change the cell, which is this one, E6, right? So let us see if we can find out. So basically what it shows is I need to, depending on the accuracy that I have, right? This is also very important, but depending on the accuracy that I have, and let me also put that in proper format. Okay. So yeah, I can save this as a modeling exercise. If you need this file, just drop us an email. We call just drop us an email with to admin at the bluedragonuniverse.in, right? If you need this file, but I believe that you should be able to create such file on your own, right? Especially if you have taken our Excel course, if you have taken our CP2 course, this should be a piece of cake to you, right? So I hope that you have that ability, right? So here, if you see why I'm getting the challenges failed, right? In this case, maybe for this one, right? Maybe this field is not needed, right? And maybe this field is not needed. What we need is this one, which shows, yeah, this is successful because we are winning on the last day, right? So even with 47% hit ratio, which is not good, which is quite poor, right? Even with that, I can change this. I need to raise 6250, which we can do, right? Although there are 3 times the threshold is breached, right, which is a slight risk for us, right, because it is reaching to 25,000 level means that we have to put some money in there, right? But hopefully we will not have this streak of losses. And then with 6250, right, which is exactly what I'm going to do, probably I'm going to risk between 6,500 to 7,000, right, depending on this mathematical calculation. So it just shows that how maths or actual principle can help us in real life scenario, right? But you need to be good in applying that. You need to understand the concept, and you also need to have understanding of the domain, like the trading knowledge, so that you can do that. So then it will be mathematical trading, and your psychology will not be impacted because you have seen this, right? Even if there is 4 losses, you should not be impacted because yeah, this is how it is works, right? So that is how it is. Now imagine if we just change this to W, right? not in this model. Maybe this is our experimental model. Maybe if you just change one of this to W, right? And then you see that there is everything is okay. We are reaching the level much quicker, which is on 25th of August, right? And in that case, probably we need to do another goal set to see what amount is it. But just we have just changed the hit ratio. Right now the hit ratio should be slightly higher, right? So we can also calculate another hit ratio, which will be hit ratio revised, right? So hit ratio revised, right, which will be hit ratio revised, and in that case I'm going to follow the same principle as this one, right? So this is W and this is, maybe what I'm going to do is let me just copy this formula, and I'm just going to replace model with model revised, because I don't want to, again I don't want to go through that entire process, right? So just going to write model with model modified, because everything else is kind of same. Okay, and yeah, model modified. Okay, so this should be divided by once again I'm going to put this one, and I'm going to write model modified, right? And again I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to write plus of that model modified, but in this case instead of A2 we have to use A3, right? So this shows us 52%, right, or 53%, right? So if we just use this rate, ratio, then how we need to change our risk reward ratio? For that we have to do another WorkSig. So we already know what we have to do here. So we are going to go to this cell which we want to make 0, right, by changing the cell, this one, which is 650. So let us see what ratio it comes with. I think it has calculated 50, same ratio only, right? I believe. I did not see what happened. I did that pretty fast. Model modified. This should be equal to 0, right? Yeah, because I think that is already equal to, that is already coming out to be equal to 0. So I think that this calculation would not change, because automatically by default that is coming out to be 0, right? So this calculation would not change. So basically it is what it requires is 53, 53%, right? And then if we what we want is to change this cell, right? So right now if you see why I'm saying that, because this is already set to 0, right? This is the way it is calculation is happening is already set to 0, so there is no change that is needed. Okay, so that is why it was showing no change, right? Because I believe this figure is coming out to be challenge failed data B9 minus G30, B9 minus G30, B9 is this one, and G30. Okay, so G30 is coming from, see there was an error here, right? Which we got, which we identified. This is not an error. This is G30 is here. This is the G30, which is coming out to be 1,18,000, right? So okay, so this method is not calculating because this is not equal to challenge failed, right? So what we need to do here is we need to remove the if condition, because that was relevant for the base model only, right? That is why we are not able to see something. Now it is coming out to be 18,750, right? So we don't need that. We want to reduce the risk reward, right? So now now this is going to work 0, and if the data is equal to, right, we have to change this, right? Let us see how it works out. Okay, so now if we go to data, it comes out to be 4545. So if with 53% win rate, all right, so we can risk even lower. We can risk 4545, and even then on the 20th day, that is the last day, right? Or not last day, just before, one day before, we are still going to get to 1045. So basically this suggests that if we are winning 53%, which is quite possible, especially for me, we can get to this level, right? But I'm still going to target the 7,000 level around, right? And get to and see when we get that. So once again, we can check that once you have built the model, it is very easy. Just change something. That is why you need not hard code anything, or it is not a good modeling practice to hard code anything. This is how you can get your model. And here you can see that we are getting, if we are risking 7,000 by 18th of August, we are getting to the 1 lakh level, which is where our challenge stops, right? So this is where, this is the probably the amount that we are going to, I am going to, risk, and we are going to get something better hopefully. And with this risk reward ratio, we do not see any threshold breach as well, right? So you can see that when I asked for this challenge, so obviously there is a mathematical background for that. We have established that using our assumptions. Now, if our assumptions do not go as per plan, then obviously this might, there might be some changes required here, right? But this is obviously, model is a representation of your future. It is not the exact future. And that is where you need to compare your actual and expected. You by, if you do well, then probably you will reach that 1 lakh much before. But if you do worse, you might not reach that 1 lakh, you might reach that 1 lakh later. What it shows is, with the proper assumption, if your assumption is, best estimate, or in this case I believe our assumption is slightly prudent, not even best estimate. But with that, I think this can be done mathematically, this can be done, so it is worth going for it. Okay, so I hope you understood what I tried to do, how I have created a model from scratch, just in front of you. I know this is a long video, but if you have seen through this video, do check out our CP2 course and Excel course. Excel course is super advanced. This sort of modeling would be pretty easy for you. And yeah, that's it, right? So see you in future videos.